Hello, Cleveland, and welcome back once again to another edition of the Dogland Podcast. Sorry we could not put anything out during the week. Our schedules both got crazy, but we are here to preview what will be tomorrow's matchup: the Cleveland Browns against the New York Jets. I am your host, Jackson McCurry, and joining me as always is my co-host Anthony Jokey. Anthony, what's going on, man?
Not much, like you mentioned. It's been a crazy week, but thankfully we get to sit down here, talk some Browns. Got the home opener tomorrow. Excited to go to that. So it's going to be a good weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we're all still coming off the high from last week's dramatic thriller. But yeah, the home openers tomorrow. It's gonna be beautiful in Northeast Ohio. The weather's gonna be perfect. I know a lot of people. There's people already, I think, camping out to get their spot for the Muni lot. So that just goes to show that people are ready for the Browns to return to the dog pound, and it's shaping up to be a good another good Sunday, hopefully for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, isn't it weird? Like for me this week, my week has been busy with work, but I just been in an overall great mood all week. Isn't it weird or funny how the Browns game can affect your mood all week long? Like I don't know if you felt the same thing all week long, but for me, I just have felt in a great mood after that win last Sunday. A very fun game, dramatic ending. It's just kept me smiling all week long.
Oh, for sure. Like Monday, I go to work. People are like, "Did you watch that game yesterday? That was crazy," and it was so fun. Like seeing people like happy, like people talking about the Browns, like you know the because what happened, over the summer and then to the spring, people didn't really want to talk about the Browns, and now it's like we're back in football, they're winning, and it's like it just seems like everything's normal again with the world, and everything's starting to return to normalcy again. So yeah, it's always good. Anytime the Browns can they play good, everybody wants to talk about them. So it's just a good overall feeling, and hopefully that continues tomorrow and then throughout the rest of the 2022 season. Um, let's catch up on some news that we missed throughout the week. We mentioned the dramatic thriller, all in part to Cade York and his NFL debut, kicking the game-winning field goal. Well, he was recognized by the NFL. Anthony, he was AFC Special Teams Player of the Week for Week One. The last time a Browns player did that was Phil Dawson back in the 2005 season. I can't remember when the last time a rookie did it. I'm sure McPherson probably did it last year for the Bengals, but all in all, Cade York comes in 4 for 4 for field goals, hits the game winner. We're calling him King Cade, and King Cade took home the crown with Special Teams Player of the Week last week.
Yeah, absolutely well deserved. You saw just across the league how many games came down to a field goal or a kick last Sunday, and York obviously went 4 for 4, had the big game winner. So it's very well deserved when you have a 4 for 4 day, including a 58 yard to win the game. So there's no doubt that he was going to win that award this week.
Yeah, it was very awesome, and I'm sure this won't be the first time this season that he gets that award, especially if he kicks the way he did Week 1 against
Well,
Carolina.
well, hopefully we don't have to rely on too many game-winning field goals to where he wins that award. But at least if we do have to attempt them, I think we have pretty good confidence in him.
And if we do, Cleveland Clinic is going to be very busy with heart conditions if it comes down to last second game winning kicks or anything. I'm sure.
I swear that's why we have some of the best hospitals in the world in Cleveland.
Yeah,
It's because of our football team,
without a
or
doubt.
just sports teams in general. To
Yeah,
be honest.
no, definitely for sure. So if Browns fans know, obviously, beginning of training camp, the Browns put out a poll for fans to vote on the field design, and they gave four options. Two of them had Brownie the Elf. One was the traditional look that people have seen, I think, since '99, or the very first Brownie the Elf that they used in the '40s, and with a more modernized look. And then there was two other designs, I think, with the helmet. But the fan vote was determined this week. It got leaked by people flying over the stadium, but the original Brownie the Elf from the '40s, Anthony, is going to be the main logo on the 50-yard line. Some of the national people didn't understand the whole thing with Brownie the Elf and where it came from. They just thought that the Browns created this overnight, but if you do your homework, Brownie the Elf has been synonymous with the Browns since the beginning. Art Modell tried to phase it out when he was owner, and then the Learners brought it back in '99 when the team came back as more of a secondary logo, and then it's been more incorporated in recent years as more of one of the regular logos, along with the helmet, along with the dog. But Brownie the Elf is going to be the main centerpiece of the field design this year, and I think fans are overexcited about it. A lot of the national media and the non-Browns fans don't understand it, but Brownie's always been synonymous with the Browns, and it's it's now more in the national spotlight, and people are going to hopefully research and do their homework and not criticize like some have about the logo.
Yeah, and both versions of the elf look pretty cool. I do like the version that they put on the field. Um, it was funny just watching the reaction all week long to it. Um, I saw a clip where Rich Eisen on his show and the whole crew there just for kind of blasting it, and then Nathan Zaguro went on the next day and kind of gave him the whole history about it, about the logo and everything. So it's pretty cool. It's different. Either way, it was going to be on the field somewhere, either in the end zone or at midfield with the four different designs. So
Right.
you could tell that they just really, want to have this logo out there, be the centerpiece. If they print those sweatshirts that Stefanski has, with that logo on it and says equipment, the Cleveland Browns equipment staff on it, I think they would sell about 1 million of those things because everybody seems to want one. I guess that's kind of the same thing as like the Freddie hoodie from a couple years ago, but
Right.
um, it's a very nice logo. It's different. I'm all for it because they won 7 championships with it before it was kind of phased out. So um, hey, if they bring it back, they win the Super Bowl. Hey, I'll take all the help we can get, and I think I'm kind of rooting for the Super Bowl a little bit more now, just because Miles said he'll wear like an elf costume if they win the Super Bowl
I was
with
hoping
that
you
logo.
I was hoping you were going to bring that up because Daryl Ryder was the one that said, the Browns won 7 championships with Brownie the Elf as the logo, and he goes 7. He goes, okay. He goes, we win an 8th. I'll rock a elf costume. So I think all Browns fans are kind of hoping for that, just because Miles Garrett looks like the Incredible Hulk, and the Incredible Hulk in an elf costume would be downright hilarious. So if that happens, hopefully it's at the championship parade. Like Miles is just rocking a elf costume in the middle
That
of February
that
downtown
would be
Cleveland.
that would be amazing. I would love to see that, or even if like all the players did it. I could totally see like the O line doing it too, just
Oh
like
my
all
gosh.
5 of those guys dressing up as the elf. So
It would be downright hilarious. To get to more serious things, Friday, it was reported that Perion Winfrey, the rookie defensive tackle, was not on the field for practice. So people were speculating as to why. Kevin Stefanski said it was for disciplinary reasons. I know the OBR has since reported that it was because Perion Winfrey has been late. The media asked Miles Garrett about it, and Miles said that this wasn't Perion's first incident behind the scenes. The players had pulled him aside before, and now this time Kevin Stefanski took it into his own hands and sat him out. I know the team called up Roderick Perry off the practice squad on Saturday, so that more than likely means Winfrey will be inactive. Anthony, this isn't good. One of our young rookies, already with multiple disciplinary issues with the team. And this was a guy that coming out of the draft, there was people saying he did not interview well. I have made the reference on Twitter that it seems to me Perion Winfrey's all bark and no bite so far. I know he made a play last Sunday batting down one of Baker Mayfield's passes, but if you're not doing all the right things behind the scenes, and we've seen this with other players, you're not going to see the field. And if this continues to be a trend, Perion Winfrey's time with the Browns, I don't think will be for long if he keeps acting up behind the scenes.
yeah, in the NFL, you have to earn your right to get on the practice field. You have to earn your right to get onto the field on game days, and you also have to earn the right to stay on the field too. And in order to do that, you have to do everything right, including showing up on time, going on to all the meetings, giving 110% effort in practice. doing everything you have to do that's asked by you as a member of the Browns. So, I thought it was interesting where I think it was Miles that said, the player said something and then they decided to take it to Stefanski, uh, to discipline him. So, I know that's part of, Miles' leadership and, what he brings to the team. And, if he's the leader of this team, and especially since he's in that position group on the defensive line there too, he's the leader of that group as well. So, uh, he, obviously his hand was forced based on whatever Winfrey did, and hopefully this is the wake up call for him because you only get so many of these chances. After one or two times of this happening, the team is likely to move on. So, even though they invested a draft pick, if you don't show up, if you don't give effort, if you're late, you're going to find yourself. The NFL stands for not for long. You won't be around for too long if he continues to be this way. So hopefully this is a wake up call for him to straighten up and have things be better going forward.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And if there's something going on behind the scenes, hopefully Winfrey would address it with, Barry and Stefanski. But yeah, stuff like that showing up late is not good. It's not a good sign. So hopefully Winfrey gets it together because I think we all know he has talent. Obviously, he dropped down to the fourth round and it was a good value for us, but maybe there was stuff behind the scenes that still hasn't come to light as to why he dropped so low in the draft. But hopefully he gets it together because defensive tackle room, despite Elliott and Bryant and those guys playing well last week, it's still a position of weakness, I think, moving forward. So if Winfrey can put it all together, we know the talent he has, and hopefully he can get on the right path and stay with the Browns because I think we all know he is talented, but we'll just see how everything plays out. Uh, Anthony, let's turn our attention to this week's opponent, the New York Jets. Obviously, this is a very young football team. They've been rebuilding the last couple years under Robert Saleh, the head coach, Joe Douglas, the GM. Obviously they've had some big injuries leading into the season. Obviously, Zach Wilson's not out there right now. They lost Mekhi Becton, who was, their first round pick back in 2020 to anchor that offensive line. He's had his issues staying on the field. But, this team, obviously last week, they did not play well against the Jets or the Baltimore Ravens, losing 24-9. But, this is a game, and we've heard it all week. This is a potential trap game because there is young talent on this team. They just got to find a way to learn how to win. You think back to the Browns from like 4 or 5 years ago. There was so much young talent, but they just could not learn how to win. They couldn't put it all together. But I feel like this will be the Jets for the next couple years, especially if these injuries to Wilson and Becton continue to linger because these were their top draft choices. And these are guys that they were penciling in as the future of their organization going forward.
Yeah, not only that, but they also lost Dwayne Brown too, who they
Yeah.
resigned when Beckton got hurt. So they are extremely thin on the offensive line right now. So you would hope that Miles and Clowney are able to kind of have a repeat performance of last week, what they were able to do. Even the whole defensive line, I thought, played well last week. So yeah, this is a very young Jets team. They have a lot of young guys. Obviously, they're going to be missing their quarterback and some of the other guys that you mentioned. Uh, it's certainly not an easy game. The Browns did lose to them a couple of seasons ago towards the end of the year. I think it was on Monday Night Football, which where I think half of the offense had COVID for the Browns when the Browns were chasing that playoff spot. So, uh, every Sunday any team can win. So the Browns have to go out there. I know it's going to be Joe Flacco quarterback. We'll talk about that, but you have to go out there and take care of business. I know, there's a lot of guys injured on the Jets, but you still have to go out there for 60 minutes, play your game, and this team still has quite a bit of talent, even without some of the guys that are missing at the moment. So. Hopefully the Browns can go out there on Sunday and take care of some business.
You mentioned Joe Flacco. He's obviously the man at quarterback right now while Zach Wilson's recovering from his knee injury. When Flacco was with the Ravens, he was a thorn in the Browns' side. 17-3, his record with against the Browns since he came into the league back in 08. Last week had to throw 59 times against the Baltimore Ravens. He did throw for over 300 yards, but when you look at it, 4.8 yard or 5.2 yards per attempt. The adjusted yards per attempt was 4.8. So obviously Flacco isn't the quarterback he was a decade ago. Good serviceable backup now and good mentor to Zach Wilson. He's coming along in the league, but this is a guy, Anthony. He's not what he used to be. He can still throw it. He can still sling it. He was able to get it around to all the young receivers on the Jet side of the ball. But when you're a quarterback and you're throwing 60 times, that usually is not a recipe for success. And it's up to the Browns defense this week that they rattle Flacco, that they make him uncomfortable. Hopefully, throw a couple balls that get picked off, but you cannot let Flacco feel like the Flacco of 10 years ago, because if it does, it could be a disastrous day for the Browns defense.
Yeah, it could be. The Jets found themselves into a big hole there early in the third quarter, so they pretty much threw the rest of the game. Flacco's been around a long time. You mentioned his record against the Browns. Obviously, part of those very good Baltimore Ravens teams, including he won one Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
Just one. But yeah, he's a good quarterback for a long time. Lots of talent in the positions around him at receiver and at running back. Garrett Wilson from Ohio State showed last week some of the different moves that he has. So obviously, it's going to be a fun Ohio State matchup probably between him and Denzel Ward on Sunday. But this defense has to, like we mentioned, uh, Jets have a lot of injuries up front. I would imagine the Jets are going to do their best to get the ball out quick, get the ball out into space to negate the pass rush of the Browns. Kind of what the Panthers tried to do early on last week against the Browns defense with Baker, just trying to get the ball out quick to the running back or to a receiver, tight end, and let them try to get some yards after the catch. So the Browns have to, stay disciplined. Because those types of plays can turn into deep plays, especially with Garrett Wilson. So the defense has to stay disciplined, react quickly, and hopefully by the time they get to well, I lost my train of thought. Hopefully this defense is able to get home to Flacco as much as possible. But I would imagine they're going to do their best to negate what the Browns are going to be trying to do on the defensive side.
Yeah, for sure. If they can establish the run, which they obviously couldn't last week against Baltimore, they have the talent back there. They drafted Michael Carter in the 4th round last year. He was effective last week, 17 touches for 100 yards against Baltimore. Breece Hall, who was another top draft choice this year, didn't get it done on 6 carries for 23 yards, but both Carter and Hall were making plays out of the backfield, both combined for 13 catches for 78 yards. We mentioned Garrett Wilson, their top draft choice this year. They have Corey Davis, who was a top 5 pick years back with the Titans. Now he's with the Jets. Braxton Berrios, who is a guy they're going to have to watch in the special teams. He was an all-pro kick returner last year. Elijah Moore, another speedster, another young guy. They have the weapons, but like what I mentioned to you before we started recording, Anthony, I was looking at their PFF grades. Their offensive line, not good right now. We mentioned Becton and Brown are out. Run blocking, only one of their tackles or one of their offensive linemen, last year's 1st round pick, Elijah Vera Tucker, had an elite grade in the run blocking. No other guy graded above 60. Pass blocking, none of their guys graded above 60. So, and they allowed 24 pressures on 62 dropbacks for Flacco last week. So this Browns defensive front, we've seen how they got after Baker Mayfield last week. They had to do just as much this week against the Jets offensive line and get back there and rattle Flacco as much as possible in order to have success. Because if you let any of the playmakers get the ball and get into open space, these young guys on the Jets can turn a what could be a 5 or 7 yard play into a touchdown. These guys are all dynamic on that offensive side of the ball for New York. So it's up to the Browns starting up front on the defensive line with Miles and Clowney to get after Flacco quickly, as well as stopping the run. They do not need to let these guys get into open space.
No, not at all. And just one kind of like last note on the O line, they're starting a fourth round rookie from this year. I already talked to Max Mitchell, so you know that's obviously not a good thing. Yes, he's playing next to Vera Tucker, but you know I would imagine there's going to be quite a bit of pressure coming from that side.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we seen last week Miles what he did to Icky Iquanu, Carolina's left tackle, their first round pick. Like he owns in on what these rookies can and can't do and attacks it. So I would imagine whether it's Clowney on that side or Miles on that side, they're going to hone in on him, and they're even going to hone in on George Fant, who's been around the league for a couple years, but he just has not been able to put it together throughout his NFL career. So I would imagine he's going to be somebody that they'll hone in on as well. And he's one of the older guys. He's 30, so I'm sure Miles knows exactly what George Fant can't do, and he's going to attack that tomorrow during the game. Looking at the defensive side of the Jets, obviously, they did some good things last week against Baltimore. They shut down the run game, but the secondary got exposed a little bit. Sauce Gardner was their number one draft choice. He was great in Cincinnati, but Lamar Jackson was able to attack it with his arm. And when the run game got shut down, everybody thought, oh well, the Ravens offense is gonna be halted. No, Lamar threw 3 touchdowns. He threw a little bit over 200 yards, so it wasn't major performance in the pass attack, but this Jets defense can be exploited. But it all starts up front, and I thought up front they played really well against Baltimore, obviously shutting the run game down, which is usually the formula for success against the Baltimore Ravens. And I thought the Ravens did that quite well.
Yeah, and obviously the Ravens were without their two starting running backs, Dobbins and Gus Edwards. So
Right.
there's a lot there as well. But yeah, when you have Sheldon Rankins and Keenan Williams as your tackles, they do have a very good defensive front. John Franklin Myers, Carl Lawson, a couple of rookies at defensive end, including their first round draft pick Jermaine Johnson, another guy in fourth round Michael Clemens. Um, Solomon Thomas, who's been around for a while. So they got a lot of experience up front, mixed with a couple younger guys. So, the Jets' defensive line is pretty good. Obviously this Browns offensive line is the strength of the team, and you have two very dynamic running backs, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, to go against that. So it's going to be a very interesting battle. I think the Browns are definitely going to be able to run the ball. It seems like no matter what front is across from the Browns, I think they can run the football. I would imagine they'll definitely put up more rushing yards than the Ravens did last week, but um, you just have to exploit the defense as much as possible. They do have a couple good linebackers, C.J. Mosley, Quan Alexander, been around a long time as well. So obviously we're familiar with C.J. from his days with the Ravens, and they do a good job in run defense too. So this Jets defense, I think, is built more towards defending the run. Yes, they did address the pass defense this year by drafting Sauce Gardner, like you mentioned. But you know, the Browns do have quite a few weapons. It was a quiet week last week from Njoku. Amari Cooper had a quiet week as well. Peoples Jones did a tremendous job last week. So hopefully there's some matchups that this offense can utilize, whether it's getting, a linebacker lined up against Njoku and exploiting that, or getting him lined up outside and maybe, going up against one of their young corners out there. Um, this offense, I think will look a little bit better because Brissett only played, was it a few series in the preseason? So now,
Yeah.
He has a whole game under him. I think things will look a little bit better this week in terms of the offense and just things flowing correctly. I noticed last week too. I kind of watched it back and just some of the communication from getting the plays in. I think some of that will get cleaned up this week too. So, yeah, I think this offense will do what it needs to do and score quite a few points and definitely more, I think, than last week.
Yeah, just looking at, it's only one game, but looking at their coverage grades, DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, who are their starting corners, they played really well. Quan Alexander played really well in coverage. I think if the Browns passing attack wants to get going, they need to attack the middle of the field. Mosley did not grade out well, and their safeties and their nickel corner did not grade out well either. So I feel like this could be a game where Njoku or Harrison Bryant get things going. If David Bell's lined up in the slot, if Demetric Felton's lined up in the slot, I feel like that's a point of attack for this Jets defense for the Browns to exploit. Um, but yeah, if they can get the running game going, which is obviously what the Browns want to do up front, that's going to be a tough challenge. I think up front, they they got Quentin Williams, like you mentioned. They have Carl Lawson, Sheldon Rankins. They got guys that were first round talent, Jermaine Johnson. They played well against Baltimore. Now, granted, Baltimore's running game was ravaged with injuries, like you said. But if they can stop Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, then maybe this Jets defense is starting to be more believable. Obviously, Salah's building it up to hopefully something similar to what he had back in San Francisco when he had all those great first round picks up front. Obviously, Solomon Thomas was there. So they brought him over, but you know, if they can stop the Browns running defense, they have a good chance of, pulling off the upset. I just don't know if, you can't compare Kenyon Drake and Lamar Jackson to what Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt bring. So that's why I'm still confident that this was just one game. The Jets, caught a break with the injuries that they had. Baltimore had at running back, but I don't know if they'll be able to stop Chubb and Hunt.
Yeah, if the Jets are able to keep it low scoring, kind of like the Browns and Panthers last week, for most of the game, I think the Jets will have a chance. I don't know if the Jets offensively can score more than, I don't know, 17, 20 points, just with what they have right now at quarterback. So and the O line issues too. So if the Browns get to 20 points, I think they have a very good shot at winning this game. So the Jets need to play ball control, make sure the Browns offense doesn't have the ball too often, and also stop the run. If they're able to do those couple things, they certainly have a chance to pull off the upset on Sunday.
Without a doubt. Let's look at the injury report. We know Chris Hubbard's out once again this week, dealing with an elbow injury as well as an illness. Jack Conklin is questionable. Anthony, I have a feeling they're not going to play him this week. And once again, I think James Hudson's going to get the start at right tackle. And then I think we see Conklin Thursday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Other than that, nobody else is on the injury report. We mentioned Winfrey earlier. Some other guys were, held out of practice. Cooper was held out on Wednesday. Njoku had a personal excuse on Thursday. And Isaiah Thomas had the hand injury, but he was a full participant, as well as Mike Woods. On the Jets side, the only guy, obviously Zach Wilson's still recovering from the knee injury. CJ Uzama, who is a big tight end target coming over from Cincinnati, he is doubtful with a hamstring injury. Everybody else is questionable, but they were all full participants on Friday's practice for the Jets. So obviously Hubbard is a big one for the Browns. Conklin, I just don't think he's going to play this week. I could be wrong, but with it being a short week coming up against Pittsburgh, I look at that as more likely he makes his debut then.
Yeah, I think I would hold him out one more game just to get him a few extra days, especially with it being a Thursday night game. Having those two close games there, I would go ahead and hold him out. One more game and get him ready for Pittsburgh next Thursday. Obviously, with that defensive front minus T.J. Watt, they're still going to need him. So I would get him a couple extra days rest if it were me.
Yeah, for sure. And James Hudson played really well last week against Carolina. So I know our him getting out there and playing again well. And if he plays well, it gives boosts his confidence even more. And then our colleagues Jake Burns and Jared Mueller have mentioned the possibility of Hudson keeps playing well. Conklin could be trade bait for a team that needs offensive line help. He's a free agent after this year. If Hudson keeps playing well and the team's confident in him going forward, they could pull the trigger potentially. If a team wants Conklin is willing to give up a good draft pick for him, I don't know if the Browns would really consider trading Conklin just because he's an all pro at his position. But if they don't feel like they're going to re-sign him moving forward and they feel confident in Hudson, maybe at the deadline they move Conklin and continue to move forward with Hudson as the team's future right tackle.
Yeah, I would think Hudson would have to play extremely well, over this Sunday and however long Conklin's going to be out to do that. I wouldn't make that move long term. Maybe they could get some kind of deal done. Something falls apart with trying to get something done with Conklin. Maybe you explore the idea, but um, I just wouldn't make that move right now. Obviously, that could change within a few weeks, but that's just something down the road. Maybe at the trade deadline, we'll see.
Right. It's all just, it's just small, casual, like water cooler talk. It's nothing ridiculous. So, we'll see. It's just something floated out there. Anthony, as we wrap things up, go ahead and give your prediction for Sunday's matchup, the home opener, Browns versus Jets.
Well, I think my first prediction, and maybe this is just a spoiler, Paul Heyman style. Um, I think Sunday that stadium's gonna be rocking. After that win on Sunday, there's just been a different kind of energy and a different kind of buzz. So I think that a home opener on Sunday is going to be pretty loud in that place. So I'm excited to see that and be part of that, um, as I always am. So that's kind of my first thing. Second thing, I do think they win. I know the Browns haven't won haven't started 2-0 since 1993. That's a very long time. I was 2 years old. So I think they're going to beat the Jets on Sunday. If they do, they got a good shot to go 3-0. But obviously, let's go 1-0 this Sunday first. I do think they beat the Jets. If I have to put a score on it, I'll say Browns 27, Jets 16.
So we talked about this on the Victory Pod. The last time the Browns went 2-0 was 1993. Belichick was the head coach that year. I just feel like the Browns are going to win this game, obviously, but at the same time, they cannot afford to let off the gas. Stefanski has done it time and time again, and I get it. When you get the lead, then you run the ball and you just control the clock. And they did that well last week. Obviously, there was a couple hiccups on defense. We talked about it, the miscommunications in the secondary. They just can't let up. If they got a good lead, the defense cannot let up. They got to keep playing and being aggressive and just not allowing the Jets to have a chance. You have a chance, we know how momentum swings big time in this league. We've been on the side of it where we've been down and teams have let up and we've come back and made amazing comebacks and won. But we've been obviously on this side where the Browns get a lead and then they just let off the gas. You can let off a little bit, but don't let off so much to where the opposing team gets back in the game. But at the same time, I look at the Browns are more equipped and ready to win. I feel the Jets are still finding their way. Obviously, Robert Saleh said that he is taking note of all the critics that are downplaying this Jets team, saying that just criticizing them for everything, and he's taking mental notes about it. Now, we remember Mike Pettin saying that the team didn't need to read the press clippings. Obviously, Robert Saleh is doing the direct opposite and reading all the press clippings, but I just don't think the Jets are equipped and ready to win. I think the Browns are. I think the Browns win this game. I'm going to say it's 24-13. I do expect it to be a low scoring game just because I think the Browns are limited offensively right now. Maybe Jacoby gets into more of a groove in the passing game, and this offense seems a lot more steady than they did last week. But I'm going to go Browns 24, Jets 13, and the Browns are 2-0 for the first time since I wasn't even a year old yet. So that just goes to show you how long it's been.
Yeah, it has been a very long time, and something about the communication you mentioned in the secondary. They better hope to have that cleaned up this week. Otherwise, Garrett Wilson's gonna make them look silly. So uh, they better have cleaned that up and get on the same page for Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. Not only Garrett Wilson, but Elijah Moore. He's a burner. Corey Davis has been a playmaker during his time in the league. So the Jets can hit you in a variety of ways. So yeah, you got to hope the secondary has that cleaned up. But hopefully at the same time, Miles and the boys up front are just getting after Flacco early and often. And, hopefully with it being a home game and it being the home opener, Miles breaks the sack record in front of the dog pound. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, apparently there's some kind of special entrance planned on Sunday. I'm excited to see what that's going to be. I have no idea, but he mentioned something about it, so I'm very excited to see what it's going to be.
Yeah, it's always fun, especially the home opener. The crowd's going to be going crazy. Joe Thomas is getting inducted as one of the Cleveland Browns legends, so it's going to be a raucous crowd with Joe Thomas there. So it's going to be a fun one. We'll be back hopefully Sunday night to recap what is another Browns victory. What win or loss. We'll be back to discuss everything that happened during the game. You guys can follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony Jokey. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack McCurry08, and also follow the Dogland on Twitter and Facebook, and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. We appreciate you all for listening, and until next time, go Browns.